So it looks like we are on a multi-stream, which is pretty cool. So I've got this set up on YouTube and Instagram. So if you don't if you don't want to be on, it's okay. You don't have to be, but I can just mess around with all this stuff. And what I want to encourage is, of course, communication with other brokers. And what's important about that is we're all in this together. We all work as a team and as essentially a family within the real estate industry. So being able to collaborate and to show each other that we can work together, we can be a resource for everyone, that's going to be really special. So I can't wait to see that. We're going to see more of it, and I think also you're going to see a lot more collaboration in general, and that's going to be extremely valuable going forward, especially as the industry continues to either not get hit with any legislation or anything like that. It's possible, but as scrutiny continues to build and change, we want to continue to collaborate together and make sure that we are all on the same page and we understand what the expectations are and what that means, and how to more effectively work together to get to a specific goal. And that goal is to provide incredible, exceptional service to our clients, build and grow our businesses and scale our businesses, and also, of course, abide by rules, laws, statutes, whatever that looks like. That's going to be extremely important for us going forward. So super, super excited to see more collaboration. It's extremely important. And I'm actually just checking the feed over here as well. I want to see here. Okay, I just need to push this thing one little section over. I'll make that mostly me, which is perfect. Thank you guys for bearing with me and letting me test all of this. This is perfect. Super helpful. Because we also want to provide the best service to our agents as well. That is our goal, one of our goals. All right, let's see if that updates now. Which it should. Hopefully. I wonder. Okay. How's this? You can test all the streams on all the different services and see which one's working. So that's always super fun. And I can resize it. So specifically for Instagram, I see that's what that looks like. So I can move that around. That is interesting. Very interesting, actually. All right, I just got a text from someone, and they said, I'm getting in touch with clients. I'm getting in touch with clients, and the ones that I'm getting in touch with are either too scared to go ahead or they need to list their home first. I think that's going to be a majority of what we're going to have to end up dealing with a lot is home selling. You're going to have the home selling aspect for a lot of people going forward. We're going to see this a huge amount. So we have to be ultra prepared to make sure that we are not only prepared to manage expectations, but to also position that property in order to actually sell it and to actually market it in a quick enough period of time so that we can go and help them purchase another home. That's going to be very interesting going forward. And we've already seen that a lot of people who have not sold and who have needed to sell are they have homes that need a lot of work, or they have homes that are overpriced, all of those different things. So you have to be cognizant of everything that we do offer, their expectations, the expectations in the market, and actually being able to compete with these other brokers who are saying they're going to do it for nothing when you know that's not possible. So that's what I have to say about that. Unfortunately, we're in an environment right now where there are a lot of different changes and lots of different strategies right now in regard to business building, going ahead and converting as much business as possible. We have to look at is this our opportunity to be the ultimate expert, because no longer will you be that agent who's just going to transact. Those days are done. The transaction days are done. That's just not going to happen anymore. The days of just sitting and waiting and having someone kind of fall into your lap, I do not expect any of that to happen anymore. Buyers are savvy. They're going to understand how it works. So if you have somebody who wants to take advantage of you, they're going to do that. I think regardless, they're going to do that. They're going to try. We're going to prepare our agents in the absolute best ways, and that's through the use of strategies, understanding the law, which we did in our training meeting yesterday. Also, strategies on client retention and how that looks and works. If if you need a lot of help with client retention and what that looks like, how to develop that more, how to strategize client retention, that's really what you should be thinking about. That's something that we do a lot of. It's important. It's extremely important. You're never going to. You'll build a business, but to effectively and truly build a business, you really need to make sure that you are cultivating relationships. It's more than cultivating. It's being the expert at all times, and people understanding that you are the expert. And regardless, they're going to think of you. That's what it is. So, in that regard, let's go ahead and start talking about some strategies about making cold calls, essentially turning a cold call into a hot call, a cold prospect into a warmer prospect. So let's do that. And then I want to make sure that I can control this, because now I can add people. All right. Let's do it, and then I can add. Okay, perfect. It's funny when you're doing these multi-streams, it's like they want to work, they kind of want to work, and then they half don't and do. All right, excellent. Let's talk. Bonnie, you got an example. All right. Hey, Winnica, welcome. All right, so Bonnie was on a call yesterday where a buyer's agent said she was getting ready to submit an offer for her buyer. When she called the listing agent, actually, hold on, someone was telling me to wait 1 second. I think they were jumping on. I think people were caught in traffic. There you go. All right, here you go. Excellent. So we can end that there. Where's the other one? There you go. I'm figuring it out, guys. I'm figuring it out. I'll get there. You know I will. Excellent. So got that one. Is it going to... Instagram's killing me right now. And that's it. It's like not pushing it, which is so weird. I wonder if we do this just like this. I'm just going to go live. All right. So, live on Insta, which is pretty fun. So, all right. Overall, I wanted to start going live with this and start talking a lot because I wanted there to be more communication and collaboration. Hold on. There you go. I wanted there to be more collaboration and more communicating between other brokers in regard to changes in the real estate market, as well as converting leads and converting, just continuing to build relationships and continue to further develop your business. But first, there's a number of things that we've been talking about recently, and a lot of it has to do with compensation and obviously brokers sharing compensation. I mean, this is what all this lawsuit is about. But what we've been focusing on, which is going to help our agents and our clients, is we're focusing on how can we still and to the fullest effectively represent our clients, and also how can we effectively represent people that we're not necessarily representing as clients. We can represent them as customers, but still you have to represent them in an ethical, honorable, legal way, all different ways. So that's something that we've been talking about. That's super important. And now we're going to talk about a few different examples and strategies of what we've been looking at, and one of our agents, Bonnie's got one right here. So let's talk about. In this example, she said, here's an example of a listing agent trying to take advantage of a buyer's agent. I was on a call yesterday where a buyer's agent said she was getting ready to submit an offer for her buyer. When she called the listing agent to let her know it would be coming, the listing agent said she would not present the offer to her sellers unless the offer was accompanied by the BBA. From what we learned yesterday, BBA should not be submitted with an offer, and it is in direct violation of fair housing, fiduciary duty. So there's a couple of different things. There's going to be, and I'm not going to, talk and speculate about the code of ethics and all of that stuff, because that's for essentially the boards to deal with. The lesson learned here, or the major thing to understand, is that there are agents and there are people, sellers, consumers, buyers, who are either going to intentionally or unintentionally submit offers, not submit things, refuse to do this, refuse to do that. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be things that look questionable that aren't. There's going to be things that we absolutely used to do that we don't do anymore. That's very normal, super normal. It's a part of business changing and business strategy changing. And instead of fight it, like a lot of brokerages did, now everyone's basically on board and we're good to go. But we're we're here because we have to be the leaders in the industry because of course we're operating in it. But at a certain point, you have all this information and these processes that are pushed down to you and dictated. And it is up to us to begin operating and show what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's what a lot of us are getting at, is that there are things stated in this legislation that doesn't make sense. There's stuff in this legislation that completely makes sense. There's things that are gray areas, and there are things that they haven't thought about, and you can't predict, just like real estate. And really any business at all, that's what you're going to be discussing, is if business changes, as business changes, how do we change with it? If you're so resistant against change, then you're going to have a lot of trouble adjusting in life anyway. So as I'm going to go from big picture to kind of smaller picture. We're talking about, legislation, changes in the real estate industry, changes in compensation, changes in structures of compensation, and all of that, down to how are you going to tackle these new hurdles? How are you going to tackle these new hurdles? How are you going to tackle these new defenders in our businesses that, a defender's in business is not, or a hurdle in business is not necessarily a terrible thing or a bad thing. Typically, the greatest success essentially comes on the heels of, really, it's the greatest success comes on the heels of failure. But the greatest change can happen after this influx of information, energy, change, whatever that is, change for the better, change for the positive. And those of us who have been in this industry for a long time and who are used to turning cold prospects into lifelong clients and friends, we're not so caught up in the legislation and the process and the fairness. What we want to ensure is that we understand fully how to represent our clients to the best of our ability, following the law, understanding and trusting the law, that it makes sense and it allows us to represent our clients' best interests. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're going for. us personally, we know there are going to be changes. We know there's going to be different aspects that that will make sense. There's other ones that won't make sense. We know that. We've said that. But the expectation is clear. And what that expectation is that you're going to communicate. You have to communicate, over communicate. We're going to talk about communicating with clients, communicating with agents, communicating with everybody. I know it sounds so simple, communication. How can that be interpreted any different? Communicating, that's you just talking to each other. No, there's a huge difference between communicating with somebody and having an understanding, a true understanding, and be able to strategize with someone who, for a lot of brokers, looked at the other broker they were working with as, almost an enemy. Sometimes they can feel like an enemy. That's normal. Normal. It can be heated. It shouldn't be normal. That was made normal. What we need to do and what we are doing is collaborating, being extremely collaborative. And that's where we're going to push forward. That's where we're going to become the best of the best. And that's honestly what we feel like is going to happen in the market. We honestly feel like this is going to push brokers and agents out of the market who do not have the best interests of consumers at heart. In heart. That's what it comes down to. And hopefully this legislation will do that. I'm praying it does, because that's extremely important. It's one of the things that's going to be extremely important. Let's talk about confidence for a minute. Confidence in your ability to sell and communicate. And this comes across as you continue to hone your skills and you get better and better and better, and you are able to quickly and effectively turn people into clients and lifelong clients, it will become easier for you. And the way it becomes easier is you're no longer looking for the sale. You're looking for the relationship. The sale and dollar value will come. If you treat cold calling and sales calling the same way, obviously it depends what you're selling. If you're selling gumballs, it's an immediate sell. That's one of those things. But if you're going and approaching a cold call as an opportunity to connect with a friend, well, that's different. That's going to have a different feel. That's going to have a different, you're going to have a different understanding and connection with that person. And it's going to mean more. It's going to mean a lot more. I wanted to see. Give me one second, guys. I'm just checking my stream. I started streaming using multi-stream, so I just want to double check. All right, cool. It still works. It still works. We're still on, and we're still going. All right. There's a couple things I want to talk about in regard to cold calling and turning those cold calls into customers first and then clients. You don't go instantly right into being their client. We know that. You can, it is possible, but the expectation that you're going to instantly get somebody from jumping on the phone to jumping in the car and going to see something is unrealistic. It has happened before, but I would not bank on that. I would not make that, or I would not try to make that my bread and butter, because that's not realistic. It's just not going to happen. What is going to happen is if you create a true and genuine connection with somebody, you're going to build an unbelievably successful business. And if you, this is what newer agents do all the time. You talk to somebody, you have a great conversation, you connect. You're like, yes, it's amazing. Connected. And then what ends up happening is we never call them back. Like, why? What happened? And I look at metrics constantly. We look at metrics. Why does it happen? Is it complacency? Is it a challenge just to, like, is it such immediacy that you're going to get on the phone and talk to that person and then that's it? Like, done. You don't talk to them again. You just tossed away a sale. And what's the point of that? What's the point of doing a huge amount of follow-up and an extreme amount of follow-up? Because agents know that with our company, with our brokerage, on the lead side, the expectation is that you are going to follow up and you're going to service your clients these leads, which will turn them into clients. So many times, and we do this in our personal lives as well, so many times we connect with people and then we just ditch it. And we we don't follow up, we don't do this, that, whatever. Why? Because I'm always trying to figure out why. Why is that happening? Why has someone allowed themselves to not purchase a home when interest rates were historically lowest ever? Watch them climb double, triple, quadruple, some cases. And then we have a significant dip. And the reaction is, I'm gonna keep waiting. How as a business professional, even person, how do you not I want to make sure that my other mic's working. How do you make sure that you're not letting someone's emotions absolutely control and dictate your professional experience? And how do you utilize your professional experience to get away from them dominating the conversation of saying whatever it is they're pushing back, whatever their rebuttal is. So it all comes down to understanding someone's why, understanding their expectations, and how do we get there? How do we break the ice? Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible. A bunch of us do it, but it's not extremely easy. It's not easy creating genuine connection with anyone, of course, family and friends and all that. But how do you create genuine connection with a perfect stranger who has been looking at properties on your website, maybe reached out a couple times back and forth, text message, email, and then you meet each other? First, you as an agent, broker, whoever you are, whatever you are, you first have to let your guard down. And you have to help people understand that you are working with them hand in hand. Because coming straight at somebody on a cold call and saying, hey, let's go, we're ready to go, let's jump in the car, that's not going to work. And it hasn't been working. And if you've been approaching it in that way, that doesn't work, and that's frustrating. So what do? How do you start that call? We do have tons of call recordings that we do have in our database. If you are a method agent, we have some of those. But the best thing to do is going to be to practice. And the way you do that is, of course, if you are a method agent, we do have access to leads, and we strategize on that and what that looks like, and how touching base, how that should look like, and how that follow up essentially should be. What I'm talking about now is because we're not transactional in nature, you're either going to be very close with clients and you're going to work hand in hand directly, kind of none of that wishy-washy, or it's going to be extremely transactional in nature. And you have to prepare yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to scale your business, specifically as a realtor going forward. And I honestly believe this. As a realtor going forward, you are going to have to be even more personal, care even more, do even more, because that's going to be the expectation, and the other real estate professionals are going to do it. The ones that are at the top, or doing business. That's how they're going to do business. So make sure that if you are talking to leads and converting them and changing, basically trying to change people's minds, I mean, essentially that's what you're doing. Make sure that you're first finding out, all right, what's their why? Why? Well, they're moving here and moving there, this, that. Okay, here come the questions about compensation. What does that look like? How is it? How do I do this? That kind of thing. So you provide your expertise in there. At that point, because this used to start earlier, where before in real estate, without all this legislation, without all the signing exclusive agreements before you drop into properties, and I'm speaking about real estate as a whole, before a lead could come in and just literally drop in your lap, you go show them how to do it, boom, contract done. That's it. That sounds a lot easier than it is, but the days of that immediacy, that immediate transaction, that quick, just quick transaction that falls in your lap, I don't think that there's the possibility of those continuing to happen, because of the nature of how compensation will work going forward. People are going to have a lot of questions about that. But also, don't forget that buying a home is an extremely stressful, exciting, wonderful, jubilant, however, whatever you want to call it, process. It is a process. It is not a transaction. I don't love calling them transactions. They are processes. They are journeys, because they are just so intense and in depth. And especially when you have legislation that's changing. I'm kind of speaking to both sides. So, I wanted to kind of dive into a couple of different things. Let me pull up my notes. And of course, any questions at all, let me know. All right. Here you go. Perfect. Okay, so I wanted to pull up couple of questions that I've been getting from buyers. Let me pull these up. Okay, so number one, the most common question I'm getting with my buyers, and this is going to be, I think across the board, you're going to hear this one the most, and you're gonna get this feedback is, how are you being compensated? I mean, that's a question we're going to get asked. How are you being compensated? Are you being compensated? How does your compensation work? Things like that. So don't underestimate your value. As an agent, you have to state up front, understand up front what your compensation looks like with your buyer. You see, they can either be your customer or your client. So that's number one. As a buyer's agent, how are you compensated? Very simple. There's a buyer's brokerage agreement. There always has been, and that's still going to be here. It's not changing. If you attended our meeting. So when I'm cold calling and I'm talking to people and they're saying, okay, well, I don't want to pay you if you're not going to get paid. That's a conversation that you have to make sure that you're in the correct emotional and just the correct headspace, because it is extremely challenging for brokers now, because the business has been very difficult anyway, because of the supply issues and increased interest rates and all that. So continuing to add fuel to the fire comes the compensation changes, which actually which do make sense. A lot of things that make sense. It's gonna, like I said, we're gonna see some changes. A few other questions I've been getting from these callers about these commission changes are, do I have to pay you directly? Yes and no. Something we can talk about. Is compensation negotiable? Yes, it is. Does the seller pay both agents? Maybe they can. That's what it looks like and sounds like now. So you're also going to have a lot of people who say, all right, why don't I just not use an agent then? Because if the seller's having trouble, or if the seller doesn't want to compensate the buyer's agents, and we can't, as buyer's agents, we can't work for free, why, consumers will say, well, I can solve this by just going and being my own agent, representing myself. You can't be your own agent, but you can represent yourself. There's a lot of different reasons, and there's a lot of different questions that I would have for somebody who came to me and said, I want to represent myself. Why do I need you as a buyer's agent? If you follow me, we've talked about this a lot in regard to listings on the listing site. Can you sell a home on your own and all that stuff? Because we were going through that market where it didn't matter. You put your house on the market and that was it. 15, 25 offers, all of that wild stuff. So we're in a very different place. It's a very different dynamic. There's just been a lot of changes. So I'm going to have some of my answers for this question are going to be similar as to what they were before, but also they've changed because the dynamic of the industry has changed. So I was on the phone with somebody and they're like, this sounds complicated. It's not complicated, but they're like, this sounds complicated. I'm going to go and just buy a house on my own. Like, I've used an agent 2 different times on the buying side. I'm just going to do it on my own. Okay. So, how do you even do that? What will end up happening for the most part is people will go to Zillow or whatever and try to do it through there. Get to the owner from there or listing agent. What most people don't understand, I think they do now, hopefully, is that when you're going through websites like that, for the most part, it's not the listing agent. You're not even, so you're going to be even worse. You're going to start getting called by 5,000 people instead of just me. So once you put your information into Zillow, you'll get all their fun stuff. Agents calling, insurance calling, mortgage calling, all that stuff. So don't do the Zillow route. And then you're like, well, I guess I can just drive around the area. I could pull up one of those sites. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And you can write down phone numbers and you can call them. So this is what a lot of times this conversation is going to sound like. I am that buyer representing himself, and I'm going to call a listing agent. And I'm saying, all right, I'm Carrie. I really like your house. I don't have an agent. Can I come and, take a look at it? Most of the listing agents are going to respond and tell them that they need to go get buyer's representation. Because listing agents are not getting additional money. And that I've heard that perception. They're like, oh, well, the sellers are paying this and the buyers are paying their buyer's agents. So, the listing agent is just making all this money. This is not true. That's not how it works. And that's never how it worked. A lot of buyers would come in and they would ask, and they would say, hey, since I'm unrepresented, can I get 3% back? On the listing side, that's how it used to work before. On the listing side, If a buyer does not have a buyer broker, buyer's agent, the listing agent has to do all of their work. It doesn't mean that we're negotiating for them, because you cannot represent both parties fairly. Of course. You have to treat that buyer as a customer. Well, it's not like going to Kohl's and buying pants. Real estate transactions are intricate. They are high risk. Timelines have to be met. Time is of the essence. That is written in the contract. Without a buyer's agent, a listing agent is in the dark. And I've been there. It's extremely frustrating. Sometimes it can be smooth. Don't get me wrong. This can be smooth. For the most part, if you're not buying and selling homes and getting mortgages all the time, it's complicated. There's so much red tape, and even now, there's even more. So first, I'm going to say you need to go get a buyer's agent. They can say, no, I don't want a buyer's agent. I want to submit an offer. This is what I want to submit. And we'll have to take it in stride, of course, discuss with the seller and do all of that. So just off the bat, representing yourself in a real estate transaction can work and is possible. But there are so many different aspects of buying. So just inspection wise, let's just talk about inspections for a second. So I'm going to say, well, I can order an inspection. I know how to order an inspection. I'll Google it and find whatever. Well, did you order your radon? Did you order your mold test? Did you order your air quality? Did you know there's a sump pump? Did you know that there are disclosures? Should be disclosures that come with every property. Sometimes there are, sometimes they're not. Did you know that there can be easements? What's an easement? There can be a gas line easement where there's a main gas line that runs through the back of the property. If you didn't know how to read disclosures, or it wasn't disclosed, or it's just not something that you specifically thought about, that's something that you wouldn't think of. So that's just from the inspection aspect. Financing aspect, you have to be careful because, yes, you can, of course, go online, do a loan, get a mortgage, do all that. People do it all the time, constantly. But you have to understand who you're working with. Are they local? Do they understand your market? Are they providing competitive products in the marketplace? The loan marketplace is extremely competitive. I'm not sure if people know that. I think a lot of people know that, but we don't. So there are so many different aspects of the buying process that you want guidance. You need guidance. You owe it to yourself to hire a good buyer's broker that's going to help you find the best deal possible. Is the best deal possible $50K off or whatever? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about finding you a property or a home, whether it's an investment or a home or whatever it is, in a place with growth, in a place with sustainability, in a place with the ability to have a return on their investment naturally. Of course, they have to maintain and do all that stuff, but you have to be the guide. There are going to be those who want to guide themselves and will continue to guide themselves. We work with them. But when you get that rebuttal of, hey, I don't need a buyer's broker because seller doesn't have to pay, and I'm not going to pay you because I know whatever. That's great. What I need to know is, are you prepared to put thousands of dollars at risk blindly because a listing agent, not even intentionally, but just following the contract, can manipulate you? So keep that in mind. When you have buyers or sellers or consumers who are coming and talking to you about being a professional where they're not the professional you are, that means you've got to take your expertise and you've got to be confident in it, and you've got to tell them that without using me as a professional, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're putting your money at risk. And not even just that money. What if you finance the property? What if there's unforeseen things that you just didn't know to look for, that just weren't part of what you look for? But as brokers and agents, realtors, we automatically look at them, or we know to look at them. Did you know you should pull a flood map on every single property, regardless? Sometimes a creek is deep enough. You never know. Without understanding that, you can get into the process. Flood insurance, that can push you up. The addition of flood insurance, because that can be so high, could push you over the limit and have you actually not even qualify for the mortgage anymore. I mean, there are so many different intricacies of an action and a reaction in a real estate transaction. An action and a reaction in a real estate transaction. That was a pretty good one. If an inspection finds something that can affect something in the loan, that can affect your ability to afford it, which can affect your ability to purchase it, that is a chain reaction that will and can happen. It does happen all the time. We put out fires constantly. Anybody who knows me, who hangs out with me, they know my phone's on and it rings. It goes off constantly. Hey, my neighbor's tree is literally hanging over my house. What do I do? You go Google it, do all that, and all that fun stuff. Yeah, but call me. Or as a seller, you're going to Google it or you do whatever, or you're going to call. Ghostbusters. Carrie. So, we didn't do a lot of cold calling today. I wanted to take it a little bit easier just because we had that huge meeting yesterday about all the legislation and changes and all that stuff. So I wanted to keep it very, very light in regard to compensation and representation, because it's just still on everybody's minds, and I'm still trying to stream this thing. So wanted to thank everyone for coming. It's been awesome Instagram, love you. See you soon. YouTube, see you soon. My guys at Method, see you soon as well. Love you all. Any questions, anything at all, let me know. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye.